Welcome back. We're going to be practicing some text dependent analyses today using the book Marisol McDonald Doesn't Match or Marisol McDonald No Combina. Uh, as we go through today, we'll be thinking about this essential question: how does society influence identity and experience? And what we will do, or should be able to do by the end of this lesson, is we'll be able to pre-write a text-dependent analysis and take apart a TDA body paragraph. So let's take a moment and see if this essential question can relate to a word cloud made using reviews of this book. So the reviews are in both Spanish and English. And let's look at some of the key terms here. Click this mustard yellow here and let's get society, influence. How does society influence identity and experience? Wow. I see that there's a mismatch of Marisol and McDonald. They sound slightly different. I notice that there's para, and I notice that there's English. I'd like you to switch to the color orange and to see if you notice if there's anything having to do with society, which means a group of people, or identity, how people see themselves and who they think they are. Take a moment to do that now, please, and go. All right, now that you've paused and had a chance to talk and discuss with your teacher, let's move on. Here's the prompt that'll be guiding our reading of this today. Both kind and unkind people can have an influence on us. Examine how the society around Marisol influences her identity. Use evidence from the text to support your answer. Please pause the video for a moment and move those red dots to two key words from the prompt. Pause now. Good work. Perhaps you chose to put your red dot on the word kind and unkind, and we'll look for those while you read. Or maybe you put it around society and identity. Marisol McDonald doesn't match. Marisol McDonald no combina. My name is Marisol McDonald, and I don't match. At least that's what everyone tells me. Me llamo Marisol McDonald y no combino. Al menos eso lo que me dicen todos. I play soccer with my cousin Tato, and he says, Marisol, your skin is brown like mine, but your hair is the color of carrots. You don't match. Actually, my hair is the color of fire, I say, and I kick the ball over Tato's head and into the goal. Cuando juego al fútbol con mi primo Tato, él me dice, Marisol, tu piel es morena como la mía, pero tu pelo es del color de los zanahorias. No combinas. En realidad, mi pelo es del color del fuego, le contesto pateando la pelota que vuela sobre su cabeza y llegando al arco. My brother says, Marisol, those pants don't match that shirt. They clash. But I love green polka dots and purple stripes. I think they go great together, don't you? Mi hermano dice, Marisol, esos pantalones no combinan con esa blusa. Chocan. Pero a mí me encantan los lunares verdes y las rayas moradas. Creo que van muy buen juntos. ¿No crees? I also love peanut butter and jelly burritos and speaking Spanish, English, and sometimes both. Can I have a puppy, a furry sweet perrito? I ask my parents, por favor, quizás, mommy says. Maybe, daddy says, smiling and winking. También me encantan los burritos de mantequilla de mantequilla y hablar español e inglés a veces al mismo tiempo. ¿Puedo tener un burrito? Un pape doce preladito las pido a mis padres, please, quizás, quizás, dice mami. Maybe, dice dad sonriendo y guiñando. My teacher, Miss Apple, doesn't like the way I sign my name. Marisol McDonald, she says, this doesn't match. At school, we learned to print and use cursive, but not at the same time. But I like the way Marisol McDonald looks. A mi maestra, la señorita Apple, no le gusta como firmo mi nombre. Marisol McDonald dice, esto no combina. En la escuela aprendemos a escribir en letra de imprenta y en cursiva, pero no a usarlas a la misma vez. Pero a mi gusta como luce Marisol McDonald cuando lo escribo. At recess, Ollie and Emma want to play pirates, and Noah wants to play soccer. How about soccer playing pirates? I suggest. No way, they say, so I run off to play on the swings by myself. En el recreo, Ali y Emma quieren jugar a los piratas, pero Noah quiere jugar al fútbol. ¿Por qué no jugamos a los piratas futbolistas? La siguieron. ¿Por qué no? Contestan y me voy corriendo a los columpios a jugar solo. After recess, my favorite subject, I think my drawings surprise my friends. Después del recreo tenemos la clase de arte mi favorita. Creo que mis dibujos sorprenden a mis amigos. At lunch, Ollie walks over to me and scrunches his nose. A peanut butter and jelly burrito, he asks. I know, I say. It doesn't match, but it sure tastes good. That is so you couldn't match if you wanted to, Ollie says. Oh, yeah? I bet I can. A la hora del almuerzo, Ale se me acerca arrugando la nariz. ¿Un burrito de mantequilla de maní y jalea? Pregunta. Ya sé, le contesto, no combino, pero es delicioso, delicioso. Marisol, tú no podrías combinar aún, aunque tratares, dice Ale. Ah, sí, te apuesto a que si puedo. The next day, I wake up and decide that today I, Marisol McDonald, will match. It's a little hard to find clothes that are all in the same color. Cuando me despierto al día siguiente, decido que hoy Marisol McDonald va a combinar. No es fácil encontrar ropa del mismo color. I play pirates with Ali at recess, but it's not very fun. Why can't pirates play soccer anyway? I have a regular peanut butter and jelly sandwich at lunch, and the bread tastes mushy. Juego a los piratas con Ali en el recreo, pero no me divierto mucho. ¿Por qué no pueden jugar al fútbol los piratas? Como un sándwich de mantequilla de maní y jalea a la hora del almuerzo, pero el pan sabe blando. Even art class is a little bit boring. Marisol, Miss Apple says, what's wrong? This doesn't look like your usual work. I'm trying to match, I say with a frown. Why? Asks Miss Apple. I can't think of a single good reason. Hasta la clase de arte me aburre un poco. Marisol, ¿qué sucede? Este no se parece a tus trabajos usuales, dice la señorita Apple. Estoy tratando de combinar la contesto frunciendo el ceño. ¿Por qué pregunta la señorita Apple? No se me ocurre una buena razón. At the end of the day, Miss Apple hands me a note. I open it and it says, Marisol, I want you to know that I like you just the way you are because the Marisol McDonald that I know is a creative, unique, bilingual, Peruvian, Scottish, American soccer playing artist and simply marvelous. Miss Jamiko Apple. I skip all the way home. Al final del día, la señorita Apple me da una nota, la abro, la leo, Marisol. Quiero que sepas que te aprecio tal y como eres porque la Marisol McDonald que conozco es una artista y jugadora de fútbol peruana, escocesa, estadounidense, bilingüe, creativa, única y simplemente maravillosa. Señorita Jamaica Apple, brinco todo el camino a casa. When I wake up Saturday, I put on my pink shirt, my polka dot shirt, my favorite hat, the one Abuelita brought me from Peru. At breakfast, I say, "My name is Marisol McDonald, and I don't match because I don't want to." "Bravo," says Mommy. "Good for you," says Dad. "Now let's go to the pound and get a puppy." Cuando me despierto el sábado, me pongo mi camisa rosada con mi falda de lunares y mi sombrero favorito, el que mi abuelita me trajo de Perú. Durante el desayuno digo, "Me llamo Marisol McDonald y no combino porque no quiero hacerlo." "Bravo, dice mami. Me alegro por ti, dice dad. Ahora vamos a la perrera a buscar tu perrito." When we get to the pound, there are big dogs and little dogs. There are dogs with long noses and dogs with smushed faces. There are chocolate colored puppies and smoky gray, pardon me, guys, and smoky gray puppies and puppies the color of caramel. How will I ever choose? Cuando llegamos a Pereira, vemos perros grandes y perros pequeños. Hay perros con hocicos largos y perros con caras chatas. Hay perritos del color del chocolate, y perritos color gris humo y perritos color caramelo. Como escogería el mío? Then I see him. He has one floppy ear and one pointy ear, one blue eye and one brown eye. He is beautiful. I walk over and he leaps into my lap. I cuddle him and it sounds like he purrs. "I think we found just the right dog for you, Marisol," Mommy says. "My puppy is perfect. He's mismatched and simply marvelous, just like me. I think I'll name him Kitty. Hasta que lo veo, tiene una oreja caída, uno puntiaguda, un ojo azul y uno café. Es hermoso. Camino hacia él y salta mi falda, la abrazo y parece que ronroñera. Creo que hemos encontrado el perro perfecto para ti, Marisol, dice Mami. Mi perrito es perfecto. Él no combina y es simplemente maravilloso, igual que yo. Creo que lo llamaré Menino. The end. Fiend. So, before we take a moment and revisit the prompt, you would go back now, and I would like you to look for the following things. Are there any parts of the story that you have a question about? Perhaps you're confused why she's calling the dog Kitty at the end of that story, right? Well, this dog certainly doesn't seem to look like a kitty to me. So I'm wondering why. Connect ideas as you go along. Also, what ideas seem to be repeated or important? Well, mismatched and marvelous. I remember seeing that earlier with how she writes her name. And is there anything that connects with today's learning target, writing that TDA? Anything about society or having an identity? And for me, thinking that you're marvelous seems to me to key in with identity or how people see themselves. So you would go back and annotate each page of the story and then think about the prompt again. Both kind and unkind people can have an influence on us. Examine how the society around Marisol influences her identity and use evidence from the text to support your answer. Well, we would go back and take care of business and annotate each page. After doing that, both kind and unkind people can have an influence on us. Examine how the society around Marisol influences her identity. Right? So we just have to take out the bossy words and we have to take out the question words and then kind of build our thesis from there. So we're going to switch it over to a text. Put this next to thesis here. and turn it into a statement. The society around Marisol influences her identity when. And then we would think of three different parts of the story when that occurred, right? At the end, we certainly know that there's a focus on her teacher helping her get over that crisis of self, that identity crisis. So you might say something like the society around Marisol influences her identity when they affirm her. Different cultures, right? Won't be able to fit much in there, especially if we're looking for quotes. So maybe we'll shrink it just a little bit. There we are. And then we would find a quote, right? But we could also put this up here in our thesis. One of the reasons, probably the last one since it's towards the end of the story, will be when society affirms her identity, right? At one point, they challenge her identity and she displays pride in her choices, right? This too needs a little pruning. It needs to be a little bit shorter rather. So I go over here, shrink it down a little bit, not too much. Okay. So then we might find a quote, and that quote might very well just come from the story. Specifically, what in the last 4 pages of the book do you see where society reaches out to her and tries to help her? Take a moment to go back to the book and find a section like that. Pause it. Nice work. And you probably saw that she was called maravilloso in Spanish, right? Marvelous, the marvelous quote from her marvelous teacher, Miss Apple. Right? These body paragraphs would have a similar topic sentence. They'd have a similar quote. Right? I think that's just probably the best thing you can do for yourself to get yourself answering it and answering it in a correct, orderly way. All you have to really worry about for your thesis is just so that it looks like your conclusion. There we are. So, what might this look like in practice? Well, here's an example. So, take a look at this one. The society around Marisol influences her identity when they affirm her style. And let's see if we see any pictures of that in this first one. Well, they affirm her style. Well, I see the mom smiling at her outfit. I see the brother smiling at her outfit. So they seem to be confirming it. Marisol takes up the dare of a classmate and dresses normally. Oh, well, let's switch to the color blue, and we can circle that picture here. Here's a little bit of the retelling of the story to contextualize the quote. Marisol takes up the dare of a classmate and dresses normally. There's the dare of a classmate. She is sad and disinterested in things that usually excite her. Her teacher, Miss Apple, notices her melancholy during Marisol's favorite subject, art, and Miss Apple wrote her a note reading. And before we get to the note and its effect, take a look at this connection here. Here's Marisol and the teacher, Miss Apple, affirming her identity, right? Her teacher, Miss Apple, notices her melancholy. You can see she's sad. As her favorite subject art, she's in front of a bunch of art supplies, and that she wrote her a note. This is what we use to source the quotation from this part. So I'm going to make this the color green, the best color. And there she is, Marisol. And the quote is, I want you to know that just like the way you are, the way you are sounds like identity to me, as does her status as being a creative type, a unique type, a bilingual type, a Peruvian Scottish American, soccer playing artist, and simply marvelous. Now, this affirming statement, I'm going to switch it over to purple. This affirming statement reminds Marisol of the pleasure she has always derived from living authentically. Drawing art that might not make sense to others, but makes sense to you, is called being authentic. You're not too obsessed with what your friends will think. If Miss Apple had not affirmed her identity, so it would be likely she might have continued to please others instead of operating from a place of creativity, confidence, and cultural confidence. Miss Apple's important affirmation reminds Mary Soul, the reader, to define themselves instead of letting others take this away from us. And that affirming language, to define oneself, to affirm oneself, and there's the word affirmation, clicks right back with our topic sentence, which we want. Boom. So now you would take that sample, you would take what you could write for the thesis, and you would go around and start. You write your thesis, wherein you restate, or rather answer the question or direction. Body paragraph. Show the logic of your argument. A subsequent paragraph. Number 2, context. Give a little bit of background, a smidgen of story. Then number 3, quotation or plural. And then number 4 is to explain the quotation. Good for this task are if and then statements. So there's our sort of breakdown. I'd like you guys to work on the pre-writing a little bit on your own and then try and move into the TDA, and I'll be rotating you all along. Great work on this. Way to enjoy the story, and let's get it.